Arabian Peninsula were Muslims. So in order for that to happen, the person delivering the call must not waver, must stay patient and tolerant in the face of that opposition. And that is one other trademark and distinctive feature of all the prophets and messengers. They stay patient in that call, upon that call, until they die. Like we know in the Quran told us that Prophet Noah, whom in Arabic we call Nuh, alayhi salatu wasalam, he stayed, Allah told us in the Quran, he stayed calling to that for 950 years. Can you believe that? 950 years. And yet Allah said in Surah Hud that not many people, وَمَا آمَنَ مَعَهُ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ, not many people believed in him or with him, meaning with Prophet Noah. Even though the length of time and the period of the call of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is much less than that of Noah ﷺ, still he had to be patient. And one of those things was his patience and tolerance in relation to his opponents. When even his own uncles rejected him, and that's very hard to take, because what one expects from one's family is generally support, even though of course we all know that's not always the case. Generally one expects support from one's close relatives and loved ones, people whom we grow up with, our parents, our uncles, our aunts, our maybe cousins and so on. It happened that his own uncles, some of them persecuted him, alayhi salatu wasalam. So in the face of that, let alone anyone else, we will call them people with vested interest, people who are interested for his call not to succeed. Even though one other trademark of all prophets is they do not ask for any money. They do not ask for financial, we can call remuneration or exchange, in exchange for their call, because it is very easy, and that is the difference between false prophets, who very often, you can't be a believer for free. You have to pay something. And we can give maybe hundreds of examples of that, and probably Sheikh will talk about that inshallah. But the call, one of the great trademark of prophets, is that they do not ask for financial reward for what they do. So that basically put people at odds with his call. So the patience is manifested in many places. I will only give very brief points on that to illustrate that. One of them was that he'd stayed in Mecca, which we pronounce in Arabic Makkah. He'd stayed 10 or 13 years. The correct opinion is that it was 13 years. And after migrating to Medina, he stayed there for 10 additional years, alayhi salam. So the majority of his call was in Mecca. And in Mecca, he and his companions, his supporters and followers, were persecuted tremendously. They were very often tortured, as it was the case with one of his supporters, Bilal, that was clearly demonstrated. They used to put hot coal on him, to burn him, and to force him to say that he was denouncing his beliefs. Many other occasions happened that drove some of his companions to come to him and say, please request God, supplicate to him that he alleviates this from us, that he lessens this burden, and he does not put us into this punishment. And look at the reply. Most of us would rush to fulfill that request. And look at the reply. He said to them, this religion will be complete, meaning that many people will embrace it, until he said a rider will ride from Sana'a, this is the capital of Yemen, to Hadramaut, far part of Yemen, to show them the distance, because they know very well the distances from here. And why did he choose to show in Yemen? to show that not only will it spread here, it will spread all the way to Yemen, from Sana'a to Hadramaut, not fearing anyone but Allah, but God, and the wolf for his sheep. To show that they will never fear humans. It will be so widespread, so accepted. That's the first part of his advice. The second part of his advice was, and he said, people before you used to be brought forth by their opponents and enemies, and they would be sawn in half. Of course, in that time there were no chainsaws. Sorry to say, but they used to be sawn by hand saws. They would be sawn in half. That would not prevent them from following their religion, because that was the truth. But he said, you are in a rush. وَلَكِنَّكُمْ تَسْتَعْجِلُونَ. But you are trying to make things happen before their time. For everything there is appointed time. So that is tremendous patience and perseverance in the path of calling. And of course, when he conquered Mecca, which was an amazing thing. Imagine someone tortures you and your followers and your loved ones and followers and everyone who loves you and supports you. Then you have the upper hand. You are in a position to punish any one of them. When the conquest of Mecca happened, he did not retaliate. He did not allow his companions to retaliate. And that was a cause, one of the greatest causes of most, if not all, of the inhabitants of Mecca to embrace his religion and not to leave it afterwards. And of course, up to now, alhamdulillah, we have Mecca as a Muslim place and the most important place. Another very great example of his tolerance, because many people accuse Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, and I will address it at the end after about 10 minutes, hopefully, inshallah. One of the things that the opponents or the people, I call them, do not really know Prophet Muhammad sallallahu accuse of is that he is very aggressive. So one of the ways to refute that is very easy. If he were aggressive and he conquered a land, that land that was most beloved to him, he said, addressing Mecca, looking at Mecca, he said, by God, by Allah, if not that the people drove me from you, I would never have left. And all of us, we know it. Most of us, where we are born, we love it most. Even if it's the worst place on earth. We think it's the best. And we try to find good points about where we are born. Even people come and say, this is a dump, you know. We say, no, this is the scenery. And of course, a person born in Mecca, punished in Mecca, tortured in Mecca, he has the chance to exact revenge. He doesn't do any of that. That is clear demonstration that he was not an aggressive person. Alayhi salatu wassalam. Ta'if, another example, very famous example, many Muslims know it, if not all. He went to the still exists city of Ta'if. And he went, alayhi salatu to call people to the call as he was commanded. And of course, the people of Ta'if, they rejected his call at that time. And not only did they reject his call, they sent their children. Because if you want to humiliate someone and to show that you totally disrespect them, if they knock on your door and you don't want to see them, because sometimes if you don't want to see someone, you just don't open the door. I mean, sometimes we all have people we don't want to see. And when they keep calling us, we can switch off the mobile, but sometimes they come. So we have no escape. Sometimes we say, okay, don't move anyone. That's what I do anyway. Don't make movement so they don't think we are home. Or if I want really, I've never done it, but if someone wants to show total disrespect, you send your little kid to the door and say, Daddy said get lost. Or something similar, I mean. So these people, the people of Ta'if, what they did was they sent their children. They sent their children